Which Seattle Seahawks are getting to the opposing quarterback in 2024? What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Friday. We are just a couple days away from Seattle Seahawk football, and we are almost done with introducing our weekly series on the channel. Or is it series is? I don't know. But whatever it may be, we need to now take a look at what the Seattle Seahawks will be doing in terms of pass rush. What kind of pass rush are they going to be able to generate in 2024? And of the weekly series videos that I do, this one generally becomes the most popular, at least until in recent years, inevitably, the pass rush becomes so pathetic, people don't even want to think about it. Hopefully not going to happen this year, though. We have a new coaching staff. We have some new personnel. And I think that overall, there's reason to believe that the days of having a pass rush that would generate 2 or 3 pressures in a game a few times a season is gone. Now, seeing is believing, and we haven't seen it yet, but the preseason was good. So hopefully this team is able to generate some serious pressure this season. And what this series does is it evaluates each player's ability to generate pressure individually, and then provides kind of a big picture on who is generating pressure over the course of the season. So if you've been on my channel long enough, you've seen this stuff before. Basically, I take pressure data from Pro Football Reference and put it into this chart, and we just track how it goes from week to week for the whole team and week to week for, each player. And then at the end of the year, we know how much pressure the team generated, as well as knowing which players did the most and the second most and the third most, etc., in terms of generating that pressure. Because sacks are good. Sacks are big. Sacks are something that really reduce scoring opportunities. It's very hard to generate points on a drive where an offense gives up at least 1 sack. I think we all know that, right? That's common sense. But pressure generates turnover opportunities. Pressure forces inaccurate throws. It forces bad decisions. And I don't want to lose track of that just because we all get into sack numbers. If a player is able to generate a ton of pressure and they're not necessarily getting sacks, that is still very valuable, and this weekly series captures that. All right, so the way I've done it is I have a projection for each player, and the projection is just based off my intuition and sense. And by the way, it is worth noting that these projection numbers are kind of using the PFR scale, because that's what I'm going to be using for data. And understand that PFR, Pro Football Reference, they do things their own way, and it's very different than PFF. PFF tends to be very, very loose with giving out pressures. They will have games where a player got credited with 6 pressures, and PFR will only give them like 1. Because for PFR to consider it a pressure, you've got to really get after that quarterback. You've got to be really close. You've got to really affect the play in a clear and obvious way. PFF tends to do it more along the lines of, well, as long as there's open field between you and the quarterback at any point when he has the ball in his hands, it's a pressure. I think PFR is just a little more useful because at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out who's affecting the play. So understand, if you use PFF for your pressure data, that's fine. But this series will be using PFR. And I'm not saying PFF can't tell you anything useful. It absolutely can. But for this series, we're going to be using PFR numbers. So we have defensive line guys here. Wilmer Williams, I have at 20 pressures. I think his playing time is going to get reduced a little bit because of our depth on the defensive line. So I don't think he's going to get past 20. I think he's had seasons where he's gone well beyond 20. In the last couple of years, he's gotten to like 22, 23. And he's now on the other side of 30, so I think he's going to start a slow decline, but still be a very effective player. Byron Murphy II, I know there's a lot of hype around him right now, but If he can average one pressure a game, I'd be very happy with that, and I think we as Seahawks fans should be very happy with that too. Remember, he is for the moment coming off the bench. He is behind Leonard Williams in the pecking order, so there's not going to be a ton of opportunities for him to get pressures. So we're going with 17, one per game. Jarran Reed, I think, slips a little bit from last year. He is getting older, and he'll have fewer opportunities in this defense, I think. I get the sense that Jarran Reed isn't an ideal fit for McDonald's defense, but we're just going with it for now. So I said 16. He'll play well. He'll do good, but it won't be quite as good as last year, which I think was like the final really good year of Reed's career. And then the last big contributor on the defensive line will be Mike Morris, who I gave 13. I'm feeling something pretty good from Mike Morris this year. I just have a good sense that Morris is going to be a key contributor this year. And I went with 13, which seems a little bit high, but I think he's going to play a little bit more than people are thinking because, I mean, look where he is on this pecking order. So I went with 13 there. I got a good sense from him off the preseason. Miles Adams, 1. Jonathan Hankins, 2. Cameron Young, 1. They're just going to pick up a random one here and there. Hankins might play enough to get 2. And that gets you to a subtotal for the defensive line of 70 pressures. Pretty good. Linebacker, Jerome Baker, I said 9. He tended to flirt with like anywhere from 7 to 10 when he was in Miami. And Baltimore's defense typically will blitz their inside linebackers a good amount. If you look at the way mostly Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith got pressure in Baltimore last couple years. So I think we will see a good amount, but I don't think he's going to play the entire season, so I said 9. Tyrell Dodson, it was actually a pretty big part of his game in Buffalo, so he has that skill set. I think McDonald's is going to use it, so I said 8. And then Tyrese Knight, I think, randomly gets 1 at some point this season. Maybe garbage time. I don't know. I don't have a great sense for how much Knight's going to play this year. If Baker gets hurt, does Knight go in? And if so, what kind of a leash is he going to have? But I just decided to give him 1. He's athletic. You got to let him eat every now and then, and they'll blitz him at some point, and he'll get home. So that's 18 for the linebackers as a group. A little more than 1 per game. I'd be pretty happy with that. Edge rushers. Okay, edge rushers. This is the meat. This is the real party here. Uchenna Nwosu, probably going to miss a little bit of time at the start of the season. Could be a little bit of a slow ease back into football stuff once he gets back too. So I took it down a little bit. I went down to 25. I don't think it's going to be a banner year for Nwosu, especially with all the players he's competing with for snaps. But I think he's going to do well, and I think we're going to be happy with it. 25. I think Boye Mafe gets a little bit of a pump up from last year. Logically speaking, he should, because he is still young and still, in some definition, inexperienced as a football player. So he should get a little bit better than last year, so I went to 30. Nwosu will still be our better edge because he's a more well-rounded player, but Mafe will continue to develop, become that double-digit sack-a-year guy. Derek Hall, I went with 1 per game, 17. Got a good sense from him in the preseason, but there's not going to be a ton of playing time yet because of Nwosu and Mafe, so we're not going to go crazy here. Draymond Jones, obviously going to play some on the edge, but don't forget, he's also going to play some on the defensive line, so I went with 14. That would actually be a lot less than he had last year, so not unreasonable at all. I think that as long as he's getting, 20 to 23 snaps a game or so, 14 should be totally manageable, even if he plays a lot on the line. And then Trevis Gibson, I just went with 2. I don't get the sense he's going to play enough to get more than that. So that gets you to your grand total of 88. So we're doing fairly good here. That's going to be most of it, though, because then you have cornerback, right? And I do think Witherspoon's going to be sent on the blitz a good amount. I have 5 QB pressures. He'll play slot corner some, and he'll probably be sent on slot blitzes. And just in general, I think there is an eagerness to utilize him as a pass rusher in much the same way that Baltimore utilized Kyle Hamilton as one. But at the end of the day, I think that Witherspoon's ultimate talent is his cover ability, and I think you want to leave him in that responsibility as much as you can. So I don't think it's going to go crazy. And then I say Reek Woolen and Trey Brown get 1 each, and that's it for the corners, so 7. I just don't think Woolen or Trey Brown really have that in their skill set, so I don't know why you try to force it. And then safety, Julian Love, never been a big blitzer in his career. But I think him combined with McDonald, you might see it a little bit more. So I went with 3 pressures from Love. And Rayshawn, I looked at his Jacksonville numbers. He was actually blitzed a lot. That doesn't mean we're going to blitz him a lot, but I do think that he's going to be sent on more blitzes than I initially expected. And I went with 3. I didn't go crazy or anything, but I did go with 3. Kevon Wallace, I went with 1. At some point, he's just going to sneak in and get 1, maybe by a fluke, but it'll happen. Kobe Bryant, nothing. So that's 7 as well, which means your total for the entire team is 190. So that is basically 11 pressures a game. I think that's reasonable. I think you can get to 11 pressures a game in this Mike McDonald defense with the way that it plays and the way this team should be dealing with a lot of passing attempts this year. I think 11 a game is reasonable. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you have any big disagreements with my projections. Let me know if you feel a different way about things. Remember, it's PFR, not PFF. If it was PFF, it'd probably be like quadruple this. So keep that in mind. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. And those are your weekly series for this season. Maybe we'll add another one at some point. There is still going to be a couple other things that happen on a pretty routine basis. But yeah, that's going to go ahead and take us home for now. See you guys later. Go Hawks.